everyone. It's I hope you can hear me. Yeah, thank you very much. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be here back in Chennai again, the city that I love. And also, I would like to thank the organizers, especially Narayanji, Satyaji, for inviting me. It might seem at variance what is a scientist doing at a place where all we've heard over the last 4 or 5 hours about how to make lots of money, but believe me, they're all connected. And I had actually warned Satyaji when he said he would like to have me for this program. I said, I'm only ever invited once to any place. So, in fact, there was this debate that was held exactly this day last year in Kolkata that was titled Media a Watchdog. And my turn came and I said, what are you guys talking about? Media is not a watchdog, media is a lapdog. You guys are absolute stooges. And especially in Bengal, whatever the government tells you, you write that, you print it, and whatever the government doesn't tell you and says never ever print it, you never print it. So for heaven's sake, you're not watchdogs, you're lapdogs. And the worst culprit is this paper called Telegraph. You got absolute stooges, sold out propagandists, false narratives. And then I did not know that the debate was sponsored by Telegraph. So I ran to the airport and people were telling me, sir, you have 10 minutes to go for your flight, 5 minutes to go for your flight. But 6 months ago at a university, there was a one-day event called Politics and Beyond. And my turn came and I said, look, aren't we all exhausted bashing the living daylights out of politicians, every day, especially on television in the evenings, all we're doing it, bashing and cursing the politicians. I think the time has come for us as Indians to, make the other arm of our democracy accountable, and that is the judiciary. Because to be honest, if there is anything that is worse right now in this country than politicians, these are the judges. And from top to bottom, there is absolute nepotism, sycophancy, collegium system. The judges don't allow anybody else to appoint themselves. There is corruption. 9 Supreme Court judges have said there is rampant corruption. Even in the Supreme Court, you have 5 crore cases pending, more than the population of South Korea. And by the rate by which we are going, it will take us 323 years to clear the backlog. 34% of all High Court judges' positions are lying vacant. 21% of all Indian judiciary positions are lying vacant. You have 1 judge to every 100 Indians. In America, it is 1 judge to every 20 Americans. The whole thing is completely corrupt from top to bottom. 71% of Indian prisoners are under trials. They've been denied bail, they're rotting in jail. And, the corruption is so rampant, not just the corruption. You have, for example, the Punjab and Haryana High Court, where 36% of everyone who's working there is related to each other. Judges, lawyers, people are... I said, look, this has to change. It is the judges we need to, hold accountable. And then after my turn, I went back to the dais and the person sitting next to me was the Chief Justice of Allahabad High Court. I didn't even know that I had driven myself. I left my car there and I took Uber and ran. So I told Satyaji, please be very careful. I'm always invited only once. I said, no, I'll take a chance. No, but thank you once again, Satyaji, for having me here. It's a real pleasure and an honor. I thought what I'll do in the next 41 odd minutes that I have, plus I'll steal about 30 seconds or so if I may, is to talk about the fundamentals of success. Because to be honest with you, and the previous speakers, especially the previous speaker and the one before that, since the afternoon, have made it abundantly clear that we have been successful as a nation. We are at an inflection point. And as the adage goes, success hides failures. And the point is that people who are successful, they don't want to talk a lot about the failures. And if those people are politicians, then they never like to talk about their failures. But the point of the matter is, unless you discover that the glass is half empty or half full, point I'm trying to make is that if a country, a nation, a people are successful, they don't want to harp a lot on what happens when you are not successful for a time being? What happens when you strive for success, but you fail? But I believe the fundamentals of success are something that we must really concentrate upon, especially at this point of time in our journey as a country, because we clearly are at an inflection point. We are about to take off, there is no doubt about it, and inflection points are very rare. They come once in a generation. Sometimes they skip a generation altogether. They come once in 2 generations, and India has not had very many inflection points. I mean, the last inflection point I can think of was possibly economic liberalization of 1990. Before that, maybe 20 years before that. So what I don't want is us to be huffing and puffing on a treadmill, because that is what we're doing right now. And treadmill can be very deceptive. If you don't show the bottom of the treadmill, it gives the appearance that you're walking somewhere, you're running, you're jogging somewhere, huffing and puffing, but ultimately you're actually not going anywhere. What I want us to do as a nation is to hop on from the treadmill to the Travelator. Because I don't want us all primed and ready to take off, and then after 30 minutes, the captain says, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, we've detected some snag and we would have to park the plane by the hangar again. In order for us not to do that, we need to find out what are the fundamentals that would make a country successful. Be that as it may, it is also a fact, many people would argue, that we have been successful as a country. We have been going in the right direction, and fair enough. If you were to look at 3 or 4 parameters as to what makes a country successful, and there are, of course, there are data points and there are parameters, and there are things that are discussed in policies, what makes a nation successful. We've definitely been relatively successful. I'll give you, 3 or 4 parameters since we gained independence in 1947. 75 years ago, our life expectancy was 32 years. 32 years. Today it is 76 years. In 1947, when we gained independence, our education literacy rate was 12%. Today it is upwards of 86%. Our poverty rate was 71%. Today it is 4.5%. And the most troubling of all, in 1947, our infant mortality rate, which is the number of babies who don't live to see 1 year out of 1,000 babies who are born, was 160. Today it is 24. And in some states, it has already achieved the status IMR of some European countries. In Kerala, it is 6 or 7, I believe. So yes, we've been successful. Some may say, well, we've been relatively successful. And if you were to scrunch the timeline even further, not 75 years, but the last 10 years, then I would say we've been stunningly successful. Let me give you a few parameters. In 2014, our GDP per capita was $1,500 US. Today it is $2,600 US. In 2014, 29% of Indian population was multi-dimensionally poor. That's the new metric that they use for defining poverty. It's not poverty line anymore. It is what defines you as poor, and it's multi-dimensional. You have health, wealth, so many other parameters. 10 years later, right now, it is 11%, which is stunning. In the last 10 years, we've actually pulled out 250 million Indians out of poverty. In 2014, our foreign exchange reserves were $300 billion. Today, they are $705 billion. They've reduced a few because of dollar fluctuation, but they have been in the last month $705 billion. So many other. In 2014, we had 5 cities that had metros. Today, we have 20 cities that have metros. We had 74 airports then. 10 years later, 148 airports. 21,000 kilometers of railway lines were electrified. Today, it's 63,000. Prior to 10 years, the last 60 years before that, the length of highways that we built, in the last 10 years, we've built half of that length. That's why I don't consider Nitin Gadkari as human, he's alien. The astonishing speed with which he moves ahead. So many other parameters. For example, if you look at our electronics exports, we had $7.5 billion 10 years ago. Today, it's $23 billion today. And this would please you immensely. In 2014, our assets under management in mutual funds were 9 lakh crores. Today, it's 66 lakh crores, all thanks to you. So spectacular progress there. Our solar panel installation capacity was 3 gigawatts. Today it is touching 100 gigawatts, it's 98 gigawatts. And the most spectacular of all, in 2014 we had 350 startups. Today we have 118,000 startups. So yes, it's not just relative progress, last 75 years, not just, we made stunning progress. And if you were to scrunch the timeline even further, not 75, not 10, but 1 year, then we've made spectacular success. I'll give you a few parameters. Our monthly GST over the last 1 year, as the previous panelist said, fluctuations may happen, but I'm talking about composite figure of the last 1 year. Our monthly GST collections have been the highest ever, 2.1 lakh crores. Number of vehicle sales have been the highest ever, 4.2 million units. Our jobs created have been the highest ever at 47 million. Our exports have been the highest ever at $780 billion. Our manufacturing PMI index has been the highest ever at 59. Our central government debt to GDP ratio has been at a 5-year low of 53%. Our inflation has been at a 5-year low of 3.5%. It's written a little bit, but 3.5%. Our Gini inequality coefficient index has been at a 5-year low of 0.4. Our income tax returns have been the highest ever at 68 million. And our Sensex has been the highest ever at 85,000. So from relative success to stunning success to spectacular success, we've had it all. So many of you will be saying, what's this fellow, strutting about saying, oh, well, we need to find out the failures and all. Stop it. Our glass is not half empty or half full, it is brimming. What are you talking about? And I would say if that is the case, then why is it that even today, 300 million Indians live on 60 rupees a day? Why is it that even today, 150 million Indian children are out of school? Why is it that 34% of all Indian children under 5 are chronically stunted and malnourished? Why is it that 20% of all poor children have never been vaccinated? Why is it that 8 million Indian children are involved in child labor? Why is it that 18 million Indians till today are in bonded labor? Why is it that 70% of India is without internet connectivity? Why is it that only 2% of Indian adults pay tax? In the West, in UK, for example, it is 66%. Why is it that 80% of all engineering graduates are unemployable, not unemployed, unemployable? They do not have the necessary skills to be employed. Why is it that 40% of all rural schools do not have a functional toilet? Why is it that 53% of all high school Indian students cannot string up a sentence in English? Why is it that 44% of all high school Indian students cannot do a simple subtraction, addition, sum? These are the problems that still exist right now. Why is it that India ranks 111 in the World Hunger Index? And why is it that our GDP per capita rank is 136, behind even Sri Lanka, until a few months ago, even Bangladesh? So clearly, while we've had spectacular, stunning successes, we also have to realize that there is the other side of it. That somehow at an inflection point, all of us believe, striving for Viksit Bharat 2047, we don't seem to be concentrating much on our failures. And this is a problem that can plague a nation that is in a hurry to land at a spot which we believe is ours for the taking. And that's a big problem. And I believe we might find it very difficult to reach that spot. And why we have this balance of failures along with successes is because we as a state and we as a people are confused about what our role should be. What is the role of a state and what is the role of its population is something that I want to spend the next half an hour talking about, because I believe that is the fundamental for success. Identify what your role is. And once you do it, then you can be successful. But until or unless you do it, until or unless you remove this cloud of confusion that surrounds us as a state, as a people, I'm afraid 2047 is still a century away. And let me begin by having a show of hands as to, if I were to ask you, just one government or state policy, just one, in the last 75 years since our independence that has helped grow our economy the most, what would you say? Anyone? Just one policy. Sir? Jan Dhan, absolutely. 600 million bank accounts that have opened, have this DBT transfer that transformed the population. Jan Dhan is absolutely right. Yes, anybody else? Liberalization, absolutely. I think that's just the most correct answer. I mean, had we not done economic liberalization, forced or otherwise, whatever you may say, we wouldn't be where we are right now. In fact, our foreign exchange reserves that today I said were $700 billion were then $3 billion. We mortgaged 67 tons of our gold. We loaded them onto the ships so that they could land at Bank of England. That was the dire situation. And after that, economic liberalization, one policy, absolutely. Anybody else? GST, yes, there is, let me ring up Nirmala Sitharaman. There is someone who loves tax out here, yes, GST. Certainly GST, absolutely, it has streamlined a lot of processes. Anybody else? Yes, absolutely, Digital India, absolutely. But did you notice one thing? All the answers that you've given are all correct answers, all of them. But all of them are related to the economy. Because I framed the question thus, which was one policy that helped our economy grow. What if I were to tell you that the one single policy over the last 75 years that has helped our nation's economy grow the most is not related to economy at all? It is the midday meal scheme. Every single day, 130 million Indian children go to school every single day. And their parents send them to school so that they may study, they may get wiser, but more importantly, they may get a healthier nutritional meal, which is mandated by our Supreme Court to be of minimum 430 kilocalories every single day. And that scheme was implemented by a man, K. Kamraj, bless him, son of the soil. And he never even went to school. K. Kamraj never went to school. And his one policy has helped our economy grow the most. So next time, ladies and gentlemen, when you think, oh, we need, especially the people in this hall of similar socio-economic strata, oh, we need an educated politician, we need a doctor, engineer, undergraduate, graduate, think again. Kamraj never went to school, and it is because of him we are where we stand today. And that right there is the role of the state. The role of the state is to create a healthier, wealthier, more prosperous, more wiser, more flexible, more adaptive workforce. The role of the state is not to use that workforce. The role of the state is to create that workforce and give it to you, the wealth creators, for you to use it. Our workforce right now is 600 million Indians. Some say it's 585 million, some say it's 615, median 600 million. The role of the state is to make that 600 million workforce healthier, wealthier, wiser, more adaptable, more flexible to changing. Of 600 million people, 44% is involved in agriculture, a sector that contributes only 14 to 14.5% to our GDP. 44%. In the West, it is 2% of the workforce. In middle-income economies, even in China, it's not more than 3.5%. Out here in India, we have 44%, 250 to 300 million Indians. Almost half of our workforce is involved in this loss-making sector that from production to purchase is absolutely medieval, archaic. And the state has no inclination to change it. I'll give you a few examples as to where we produce and what we produce, and it'll be very clear. 70 million hectares of Indian agricultural land. That is almost 40% of all available agricultural land. 70 million hectares has been severely damaged in the last 6 years because of floods and drought. 70 million hectares. This is the sector I'm talking about, where 300 million Indians are involved. 81% of all farmers or crops are not insured. 110,000 farmers have committed suicide in the last 10 years. Do you know of any other sector where so many people who are involved in that sector have committed suicide? If one IT engineer unfortunately commits suicide, the news runs for a week. Here, more than 1 lakh farmers have committed suicide, and we do not even know, bat an eyelid. This is the situation of this sector. I can go on and on. When you talk of what we produce 4,000 kilograms of rice per hectare. That is one of the lowest quantities that is available per hectare that we can take out. In other rice-growing countries, it's double of what we produce. When it comes to maize, it is 25% of what is maximal output can be of maize per hectare. India is the world's second largest producer and consumer of chemical pesticide. We have 60,000 tons of chemical pesticides. 30,000 Indians die of pesticide poisoning every year. India has one of the highest food export refusal rate, 7 times that of China. And it's not just the exported food that is refused. Here states, alliance states have refused to buy grains from each other. Karnataka refused food grains from Punjab, saying the land is completely poisoned. There are trains that run, they are called cancer trains that run from Punjab to Rajasthan every day, twice a day. This is the situation of what we have as far as our land is concerned. What of water? What can I say? India is the world's second largest producer of sugarcane. We produce 500 billion kilograms of sugarcane every year. Now, sugarcane is a very water-intensive crop. It requires only 9% of the arable land, but 71% of irrigable water. The amount of water required to produce 500 billion kilograms of sugarcane is 1 quadrillion liters. I didn't even know what quadrillion is. I thought things finished after trillion. So I calculated that's the amount of water that is present in 10 Ganga Sagar dams. That's the amount of water we need to produce 500 kilograms of sugarcane every year. And sugar prices, they have halved in the last 6 years. And what are the politicians doing? Proudly, they keep on giving more and more of the MSP equivalent to farmers for sugarcane. They are proud that we keep on growing more and more of the sugarcane. We don't have enough water. Our water availability per capita has shrunk almost 50% in the last 40 years, from 3,000 cubic meters to 1,200 cubic meters. According to United Nations, the water availability per capita required for civilized living is 1,700 cubic meters. So right now we are uncivilized. Did you know 78% of all river water during monsoon goes waste into the ocean? 78%. 3,100 billion cubic feet of Godavari river goes waste into the ocean every year during monsoon. What is the water requirement for the entire state of Tamil Nadu? 1,800 billion cubic feet. What is the state doing about it? Well, for the last 30 years, the responsibility of the state has been from Supreme Court to Parliament to 3 prime ministers to 4 governments is to link rivers. The Supreme Court had said we must link 30 rivers as soon as possible to connect flood-prone areas to drought-prone areas. And it was only in the last 2 weeks that the first such river linking was inaugurated by Prime Minister Modi, Ken-Betwa link. 30 years have gone by. What have we done? I'll tell you what we've done. 4 years ago, there was this extreme drought in Latur in Maharashtra district. And the politicians were happily flagging off water trains. They were cutting ribbons. Oh, look, we flagged off another water train. We shouldn't be sending water trains to these drought areas. We should be linking them with rivers. And growing more and more sugarcane, at least one chief minister realized this is absolute murder, and I will not let it happen. When he was the chief minister 5 years ago, and as luck would have it, he is currently now again the chief minister of Maharashtra, Mr. Fadnavis. He said, from now on, if in Maharashtra you need to grow sugarcane, you have to take government permission for it. And that is fiendishly clever because we know in this country what it requires to take government permission. So nobody in their right mind would ever grow sugarcane. Within 3 months, he had to rescind on the order. I would not name the politician who forced him to do so, but our state has given him a Padma Vibhushan. But he runs a liquor industry, and molasses, the byproduct of sugarcane, is important for that. This is what the state has done. It has reduced itself to to catering for small gains of political parties and politicians, not look at what the state needs. What has it done? I'll tell you what it has done. It has made Narmada Dam. Right now, Narmada Dam irrigates 33.1 million hectares of agricultural land. It powers 1.4 million homes, and it gives drinking water to 33 million people. Narmada Dam. But you know how long it took? The foundation stone was laid by Jawaharlal Nehru, and it was inaugurated by Narendra Modi. 50 years it takes for us to make one product, a scheme that would help this country. That is the role of the state. One politician changed all that. But alas, the moment Modi brought in those 3 agricultural reforms, the farm laws, this sector was crying out for those. It would have been the greatest reforms ever brought in this country. The nation erupted into black laws have been laid. The country came to a standstill. The capital was laid siege to. People were killed. 5 highways were blocked. And the tragedy is that each of those 3 farm laws were almost verbatim in the election manifestos of each of those political parties, starting with Congress. What were those 3 farm reforms? Modi said from now on, the farmers can sell their produce not just in a government market, but in a private market. That is what the cornerstone of business is. You have a product, you should be free to sell it wherever you want to. How would you like if the businessmen amongst you are forced by the government to say, you made a product, but you can't sell it on Amazon. Please sell it on a government website that works 20 minutes in 24 hours. You would sue the government. But did we ever bat for the farmers? No. Because we've exalted them to a demigod status, put them on a pedestal, listening to Manoj Kumar's songs of Mere Desh Ki Dharti, Sona Ugle and all that. We don't consider them as businessmen anymore. Why? They are crying out to be seen as businessmen. We refuse to listen to them. That is the tragedy. What was the second farm reforms? That we'll do away with the emergency provisions of the Essential Commodities Act. Now, this is one of the vagaries of Indian bureaucracy, that with a wave of a pen, you can change storage to hoarding. And almost overnight, you are liable to be arrested if you have a go down. And that is what used to happen. So, no businessman or businesswoman worth his or her salt was prepared to make these large state-of-the-art 24/7 go downs. Because at any time, when a farmer is storing his perishable produce, a bureaucrat might come and say, oh, look, this is not storing, this is hoarding. And you're liable for a non-bailable warrant arrest. So the emergency provisions were done away with. And what was the third reform? That contract farming. That is, a businessman is free to approach a farmer and say, you have the means to produce this thing, I will pay for it. Instead of producing rice or wheat or whatever you are, I give you a choice. You want to make coffee, you make whatever. That is the cornerstone of how business is run. And the tragedy is that Congress opposed this, but in its own then erstwhile Congress-run state of Punjab, they already had implemented a Contract Farming Act. Captain Amrinder Singh was running it. He had given 3,500 crores to Adani and Ambani in the Contract Farming Act, but the moment Modi brought it, all hell broke loose. That is the tragedy of this country, that we don't realize what is important, what is the role of the state. The confusion that surrounds us is what is going to get us ultimately. Finally, I want to give you one other example of how to make this wealthier, healthier, wiser, more progressive, more adaptable workforce. Let me give you another example. One city, Paris, one city in the world attracts 25 million foreign tourists a year. One country, India, attracts 11 million foreign tourists. Paris, one city, 25 million. India, 1,400 million population, is 11 million. Only 30 million Indians are directly employed in tourism. It should be 5 times this. Tourism contributes only 2.5% to our GDP. It should be 5 times that. We have an 8,000-year-old culture, hundreds of dialects, hundreds of languages, cuisines. We have deserts, oases. We have beaches. We have snow-capped peaks. We have 44 World Heritage Sites. Greece has half those World Heritage Sites and attracts 3 times as many visitors. UAE, a country of 10 million, has more hotel rooms than India does. China has 100 times more hotel rooms than India does. The Sun Temple at Peru attracts 1.5 million tourists a year. The Sun Temple at Konark, 9,000. What is the state doing? Bodh Gaya should be the Vatican of the East. The Buddhist population around the world is 535 million. South Koreans, Chinese, Japanese would be falling over each other to make Bodh Gaya the Vatican of the East. And yet, the annual budget for the municipal corporation of Bodh Gaya is less than the production budget of the failed movie Adi Purush, 500 crores. Bodhi tree, under which Lord Buddha attained enlightenment, is the most sacrosanct place for Buddhists. Only 0.25 million people visited the Bodhi tree. Buddhist population, 535 million. How many visited the most sacred place? 0.25 million. And it's not that the state didn't realize something needs to be done. You need people to be skilled in this sector. So Prime Minister brought out this Skill India mission in 2014-15. The idea was by 2022, we will have 400 million Indians skilled. 2022 came and went. How many did we manage to skill? 14 million. Target was 400 million. We skilled 14 million. And it's not that, it's just that the last 10 years we've thought about it. India has had an apprenticeship act going back to Nehruvian time because people realize you want to skill, it has to be a Guru Shishya thing. You need apprentices. And yet right now we have only 0.5 million apprentices. Our workforce, 600 million, apprentices, 0.5 million. What is the state doing about it? I'll tell you what the state is doing about it. The state is running 495 hotels. State is running. All of them are loss-making. And the only time they make money is when they have to ferry political parties from one state to the other. Resort politics. This is what is, we are not plucking the lowest hanging fruit. We are watching it rot. This is the confusion that the state has. But you know, I've talked about, in whatever time I have left, we've bashed the state enough. Of course, it is confused about its role, and unless that shroud of confusion is lifted, I'm afraid we are not going anywhere. But if the state is confused, I think we as a people are also confused, and we, at least this is in our hands to remove this cloud of confusion. Now, you know, I am all for a welfare state. If India was not a welfare state, we would not be where we want to be. And nobody wants a GDP per capita of $50,000 of a gated community. We want GDP per capita of the entire India to be $50,000. Nobody wants an island of prosperity in an ocean of misery. But we must realize that welfare state is only possible in a capitalist economy. You need to generate the money in order for you to then spend it. Socialism is not possible in a socialist state. That is what we need. And welfare is important. If 120 million toilets were not made in the last 10 years, did you know, for example, that every new toilet that has been made has saved that household upwards of 50,000 rupees in health costs? And it came out 6 months ago that 150,000 Indian children have been saved directly because of the toilets that have been made. If 100 million gas connections were not given through Ujjwala, did you know every year 150,000 Indians, their lives are being directly saved? Because even I didn't know this, that the biggest cause for infant mortality in India is not some disease. It is household pollution. You blow that thing and you don't have gas to cook that thing, and that is what kills the infant. 100 million gas connections have been made. So many, 110 million tap water connections. Did you know that under 5 diarrheal deaths have been slashed by half? So many other examples. You know, somebody talked about Jan Dhan. There is Mudra loan to give, basically some benefit to the economy. 430 million Mudra loans have been given, 600 million bank accounts, 380 million Ayushman health cards have been given. 68 million Indians have been treated through those cards, more than the population of United Kingdom. And what I consider as the biggest welfare scheme of all, our greatest achievement since independence, is that we managed to vaccinate 1 billion Indians twice over within 1 year. So welfarism is important, it is crucial, we need welfarism. But as I said, what is our confusion? Our confusion is that we do not draw that line between welfarism and freebism. We do not know what is a freebie and we do not know what is a welfare. And unless we draw that line, I'm afraid this country will never be developed. It is getting worse and worse and worse. Politician will never draw that line. Never. Because for a politician, every freebie is welfareism. Why would he want to endanger his prospects of winning elections? He'll say, no, I'm distributing this. This is welfare. This is not freebism. So what is constituting that welfareism? What is that line? And it's not that easy, I'm telling you. It's kind of abstract at times. Every person must define what that line is, but that line has to be drawn. Let me, at the risk of sounding patronizing, have a show of hands, and I'll illustrate this process. How many among you love your families? Please raise your hands. And of course, I'm sorry, apologies for being patronizing, bombastic. Every hand has gone up. How many of your families are in debt? Okay, 2 hands have gone up. So 99% people, their families are not in debt. Okay. Again, apologies for rhetorical question again. How many of you love India? Please raise your hands. Okay, all hands are going. That communist hasn't raised his hands. And so. You're not from JNU, sir, are you? Okay. No, just joking. So, all of you love your families. Almost none of your families are in debt. All of you love India. Then why the hell are you so comfortable when India is in a debt currently of 260 lakh crores? Why aren't we shouting and harping about this? The states have a cumulative debt of 80 lakh crores. We aren't even blinking an eyelid. Why? Why are we so comfortable? Who is going to pay for this? America currently has a debt of $40 trillion. It doesn't care. It might as well be $80 trillion because it can print money however much it wants. We do not have that luxury. Somebody has to pay for this money. There is no such thing as free lunch. And when all of you applauded when I said 10 years ago we had 350 startups, today we have 118,000. Those are the startups that would have to pay more tax for this. Somebody has to pay for it. We haven't realized, we haven't drawn that line. So what constitutes a freebie? What constitutes welfare? I will tell you what my definition is. According to me, welfare is using Indian taxpayer, our taxpayer money for the welfare of the country. It is for national interests. Freebie is using our money, taxpayers' money, against national interest. Freebie is to appease, is to placate a vote bank. Freebie is not for the country prospering. Freebie is for a politician prospering, his political party prospering. And that is the difference. And let me give you a few examples to illustrate this giant confusion that surrounds us, that we are so oblivious to it, we don't even blink an eyelid, and it is all around us. Let me give you one example, the first one. Every political party that wants to win an election and then forms a government promises that the moment it comes to power, all the senior citizens of that state, we will send free pilgrimages. Why? What is this nonsensical scheme? This is blatant appeasement, placating this vote bank. Arvind Kejriwal, bless him, is from my chief minister, and right now he's not the chief minister, but there is an empty chair always kept for him, and his Atma always floats around. He might be here, in fact. He accompanies a Delhi wala whenever he comes. Oh, there he is, sir. Yeah, hello, sir. You can't see him because he's sitting on a 12 lakh commode toilet, but so he promises every senior citizen of Delhi a free trip to Dwarka. Every Samajwadi Party, free trip to Ajmer. Congress, free trip to Madurai Meenakshi. Biju Janata Dal, free trip to Jagannath Puri. And no party is immune to it. BJP promised in Nagaland, if it won, free trip to Jerusalem. Forget about Ayodhya. They didn't know where Jerusalem is. I'm going to Jerusalem. Why? This is our money. And you're spending it for your benefit, not for nation's benefit. Free pilgrimage, free Hajj subsidy, free monthly salaries to Maulvis and Imams, 18,000 per month, increasing it, mandated by everyone, by the state. We don't even bat an eyelid. Interest-free loans if you want to set up shops on Waqf land. Why? This is our money. This is what freebism is. Against national interest, for appeasement, for placating a vote bank. Let me give you another example. In the last 10 years, just the central BJP government has spent 8,000 crores on government ads. 8,000 crores. In the last 3 years, Kejriwal's Delhi government has spent 1,200 crores on government ads. Why? It is our money. And you're using it for full-page ads in newspapers and media wishing each other happy birthday. Some politician, mug shots of it. Happy birthday to him, happy Children's Day anniversary, happy Mahatma Gandhi or Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi anniversary. Why? This is our money. And every morning we read a newspaper and we flip that page without bothering. That's our money that's being burnt. Lakhs of crores. And you don't even realize how dangerous this is. Not just waste of our money, criminal waste. By using this, you have the legislature, you have these politicians bribing the media. Because they say, don't print this news or we'll switch off this tap. Or print this news. And you have media running these campaigns. Have you ever seen a media running a campaign against government ads? Never, I've never seen it. They fight like cats and dogs for that money. This is what appeasement is. This is what freebieism is. Let me give you another example because the time is of essence out here. In 2005, celebrated economists, of course, reputed economists, the late Dr. Manmohan Singh and Dr. Montague Singh Ahluwalia said, we will go bankrupt if it goes on like this. We need a new pension scheme. In 1980, 2% of our revenue went in pensions. Right now, it is 10 times that. So they came up with a new pension system or new pension scheme whereby you would have government contributing 10% or 14% and the other percent would be contributed by the employee, as opposed to what is now called the old pension scheme where you would draw 50% of your last salary, which was tax-free. So 2005, they came up with this, Congress government. In 2022, another celebrated economist, Rahul Gandhi, don't laugh, he is. He went to Himachal and he said, if you elect Congress, we will junk our own scheme. We will revert to OPS. The scheme brought in by Dr. Manmohan Singh and Montague Singh Ahluwalia, we will junk it. Himachal had 1.3 lakh government employees, 1.6 lakh pensioners. Congress won. And when people say Modi was the first one to talk about revdi, freebies, no, it was Montague Singh Ahluwalia, a congressman. He rose up and he said, don't do this. You will go bankrupt. This is the biggest revdi of all. This is his phrase. It's not Modi's phrase. The RBI governor said, don't do this. You're going to spend now 5 times more on OPS than you were on NPS. Please, you will go bankrupt. Nobody listened to them. 2 months ago, the chief minister of Himachal rose up on the assembly and said, we have no more money to pay salaries to our MLAs. Himachal has mortgaged Himachal Bhavan in Delhi. They were thinking of taxing the second toilet if they have Himachalis. 77% of Himachal's annual tax revenues go in propping up this scheme. For what? This is how, for a narrow political interest, you can compromise and stop the flow, the direction of this state and the speed of this nation going towards developed country. Because I want to talk about the biggest revdi of all. And it doesn't even register amongst us. It is the MSP, minimum support price. It is the mother of all freebies. And every year, no politician has the guts to cut this out. In fact, they keep on increasing it. Proudly in their manifesto, they keep on saying, we have increased the MSP, we've increased the MSP. It has come to such catastrophic proportions now that we keep on procuring millions and millions of tons of food grains to the amount of we are now produce 320 million tons of food grains. Do you know what our storage capacity is? 145 million tons. Half of it we can't even store. And yet politicians, political parties keep on procuring it. Every year, we spend 3 lakh crores in procuring this. Proud of this procurement. The buffer max limit of what the government can procure has been set by the parliament to 41 million tons maximum. It hovers around 23 to 25 million tons. 2 years ago, we had 100 million tons of food grains. 60 million tons over because no politician has the guts to say no. So much so when COVID struck, we could not distribute 8 million tons because it was considered unedible because rats were eating it. We had to import food grains to distribute it. And the tragedy with MSP is that every year you have the placation of this same vote bank. So Rahul Gandhi said that we want a guarantee on every food item that is produced in this country to MSP. And BJP rightly said, mocked it, said, are you mad? We will go bankrupt. This will cost us every year 16 to 20 lakh crores. We only have 45 lakh crores to spend. This cannot happen. Then came Haryana elections. And BJP promised exactly that. Every food item produced in Haryana, free MSP. And what happened? BJP won. BJP mocked Rahul's Khatakat scheme, giving 1 lakh per year to every woman. Rightly mocked it. But then Maharashtra elections came. And what did BJP do? It didn't just promise, it implemented 1,500 rupees per month to every eligible Maharashtrian woman aged 21 to 60, costing the exchequer 50,000 crores. And now the incumbent said, I will double it. It will cost 1 lakh crores. And what happened? BJP won. What is the debt of Maharashtra? Anybody has thought about it? 8 lakh crores. Nobody cares about this. And finally, let me end because I know I'm taken time, but you might think MSP does not affect you. Yes, you've heard about it, but it doesn't affect you. You're wrong. It not just affects you, it is killing you. Let me tell you why. Because when government promised MSP Sarkari Naukri, economics tells you that the more you promise a guarantee, that's the items that the farmers will grow. So the farmers started growing more and more of rice, which is immensely water guzzling. And the water table of Punjab and Haryana went down alarmingly. And for once, the politicians were alarmed. They said, we cannot have this anymore. There is no water anymore. So what happens was, they said, passed a law that from now on, you will sow the rice only at the onset of monsoon. So they delayed the rice sowing season. And correspondingly, the rice harvesting season was also delayed. And it coincides with the onset of winter. A month ago, the air quality index from my state, Delhi, was 999. Acceptable limit is 50. And it is 999 because only 3 digits of the meter show. It might be 2,000. You have no idea. 70,000 farm fires happen every year on average. Let me give you a perspective. An area of 17,900 square kilometers is on fire every day for a month right next to Delhi. 12 times the size of Delhi. We are spending 150 times more on curing respiratory diseases that goes on as a result of rice stubble burning than we would had we bought in happy seeder machines that would have taken out the rice stubble in an eco-friendly way. $70 million, that is what it cost. And what is the annual ad budget for central government, Punjab and Haryana? $1,300 million. That's why I say we were a banana republic ever since we became a republic. But ladies and gentlemen, ये banana republic को हमें ही तो republic बनाना है. It is left on us. We only have to take this from cradle to forward. Unless we do this, unless we remove the confusion that the state is shrouded in, the people are shrouded in, I'm afraid 27 is miles away. I shall end there. Thank you very much.